All right, welcome back, race fans. We are here to talk strategy and answer questions about your fantasy lineups ahead of the Mexico GP. Always an exciting race on the F1 calendar. The Mexico GP gives us the highest altitude event on the F1 calendar and one of the longest straights, which when combined, makes for some of the highest top speeds of the entire season. Valtteri Bottas hit 231 miles an hour here in 2016, eclipsed only by also Valtteri Bottas, also in 2016, but at Baku during qualifying. So it is going to be a fast race favoring straight line speed. Lots to talk about today, including how the FIA steward stole third place from Lando Norris. But before we get into it too far, some quick introductions and reminders. My name is Ross. I'm the founder and CEO of GridRival. With me today, I have Michael Urstinoli, our CTO, Ryan Booth, our Director of Business Operations, and William Laddie, our principal software engineer. Before we get going, just a quick reminder to like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on any of these events going forward. And also, we last week, if you were here, we kind of went to a different format. We were trying to allow a lot more time for Q&A. So we're going to go through some of our recaps pretty quickly. But before we get started, just a quick reminder to get your questions in as early as possible because we will be getting to them soon. Quick recap, USGP, 10 drivers up in value, 9 down in value, with Russell staying flat, which I think at this race was a decent outcome for some folks. On the winning side, we have Sainz and Lawson up 2 million, Colapinto up 1.9. Both Haas drivers up equally at 1.2 million. Leclerc and Gasly up 1 million even. And then we have Verstappen, Perez, Tsunoda up small amounts, all under 1 million. On the team side, we have Haas and Red Bull up also equally 1.7 million, and then Ferrari up 1.5. Last on the winners list, we have Ross, the founder of GridRival, with 1,122 points, up $3.2 million. Can you guys believe it? That's one of my biggest wins. I don't know about you guys. On the losing side, we have Lewis Hamilton off early into the gravel, down 2 million, and also probably on sale, which we'll discuss in a minute. We got Albon down 1.9, Alonso down 1.6, Piastri 1.4, Zhou Guanyu down 1.2, and then we got Ocon, Bottas, the stroller coaster at an all-time low. I think down 5 or 6 events in a row. So probably somebody also worth discussing. And then Lando, all down under $1 million. Mercedes down 2.2. Williams down 1.3. So as we get into the Mexico GP, let's start off by talking about some of the obvious drivers on the grid who are now on sale or undervalued. Plenty of interesting outcomes from this event at the top kind of tier of the grid. Obviously, the standout to me, anytime you have somebody like Lewis Hamilton spinning off, dropping the full amount at 2 million or 2 million even, which is the max amount a driver can drop in our game. Is Lewis Hamilton on sale, and what's the play for him? I feel like, if you sign him with the way that Mercedes has been doing, he's currently ranked 7th. He's at 22.8 million. I certainly think there's upside. The question is, for how many races in a row is there potentially upside? My gut instinct is it's probably 2 or 3. I don't know if you guys have any opinions you'd like to share on Hamilton as we get into the discussion for the show today.
I have got an opinion on Mercedes, and both of their drivers. I think that they're either overvalued or they're at best at the right value, actually. So, if you'll all recall last week, I was saying Mercedes may not be putting a lot into these last few races since they're locked into fourth in the constructors, essentially. And what we saw were some upgrades that didn't seem to be working. I think there's a reason that George Russell decided to start from the pit lane rather than cannibalize Hamilton's upgraded parts after that crash in qualifying. I think Mercedes missed pretty bad, and I think they're fourth on the tier list. I'm comfortable saying that Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull are all ahead of them in that order, roughly. And they'll beat Checo because Checo's just a disaster, but I don't see Mercedes contending for wins, and I think they're going to be lucky to get any podiums these last 5 races.
Hot take. That's a hot take, right? I feel like that's kind of a hot take.
I would say it's a hot take. I mean,
I mean,
Lewis
it's warm
Hamilton.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean Lewis Hamilton at 22.8 right now. I would prefer to have Signs, of course, right now at 24.4 million.
Yes.
But if it, I think Hamilton specifically, not Russell Hamilton, can serve a strategic spot in someone's lineup. But I agree with William that I think it expect flat to maybe slightly positive, slightly negative salary growth, but I think that's a good use of money to points to park for the rest of the season if your lineup budget allows.
Yeah, I'm not ready to give up on Mercedes yet. I do think that they are behind those other three constructors, but at the same time, like, Hamilton's down at 22. If he fits in your roster, I don't think it's a bad play at all. I know people have already been talking about, he's ready for Ferrari, he's ready to move on. I don't think Lewis Hamilton's the type of guy who's just going to like mentally check out of races. Like we've seen
Yeah,
his
great
competitive
point.
nature. He's going to go out there and try and get the best result he can.
Yeah.
Whether the car will allow that is another story, but I think they're still fine. And then I mean Russell ran a pretty good race. I mean, he beat Checo, which is insane. He started from the pit lane and beat Checo. So
Is that praise
Yeah,
for
that is.
Russell, or is that an indictment on Checo?
I think
It's
it's
probably
both.
both. Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say
a
it's
little bit
both.
of both. Like I mean, Russell still ran a good race, all things considered. Um, but yeah, at the same time, Signs is cheaper than Russell, and I think it'd be crazy to roster Russell over Signs.
Yeah. So the question on Signs is: did Signs have a really, really great race, or is this a indication of what we can expect from him the rest of the season? I maybe think it's somewhere in the middle. Like if you look at the Signs chart, someday we'll figure out how to screen share on this podcast. But it's basically it's trended down the whole season, and he was coming into this event. Um, he was down. He went up the full 2 million. So this was obviously a standout, in my opinion, for what we've seen over the past, call it 10 events. Obviously he's always in the top. Like I won't try and make an argument that he's probably not a top six, or you can be betting on him to be in the top six. But is he's currently on our game. He's currently ranked. What is he at in salary? He's at
He's
six. So I think the question
six.
is, um, it was his performance at the USGP. Like, are you guys? Would you be betting on him to repeat that
I'm going to
on
say
any
yes.
any form of regular basis? Call it over, but just between now and the end of the season.
I'm going to say yes. I think Ferrari has caught up, and Ferrari is now within 10 points of Red Bull in the constructor standings. I do think that we'll be seeing Signs on the podium again. And so if we're talking about drivers who are on their way out, I don't think Signs is going to check out. I think that like there is a chance that this is the last time that Carlos Sainz is going to have a car that can win races. Like that is a possibility, and
Yes.
I think he's going to seize on that as much as he can. Going back to Mercedes, like I would rather have Hamilton than Russell given the prices.
Yep.
I'll say that, but yeah, I'm just not sold on their pace or their ability to have pace these last five races.
Any other thoughts, Mike, Ryan?
And Hamilton, I'll say 1 point. I got to get 1 point in about Hamilton. Ryan
Yep.
mentioned that Hamilton's not the type to check out. He won his final race with McLaren, so I 100% agree with you there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knew he was leaving then, like he was going to Mercedes. He won that
Right.
last race with McLaren.
Um. Also at the top of the grids, we have Piastri down 1.4 after the last event. Under what conditions would you be trying to capitalize on that dip, if any come to mind?
If you're locked out of a bunch of drivers up top, like I think you have the clear top three: Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, and then right under them is Piastri. Maybe Sainz slightly behind Piastri, but Sainz is 3 million cheaper. So
Yeah.
like I'd be taking Sainz over Piastri, and McLaren has also made it clear that they're going to prioritize Norris. Um, I just don't think Piastri is a guy to add at this price. Like, he should probably finish fourth, but I just think there's more upside with guys below him.
Yeah. Well said.
With 5 races to go, if I have piles and piles of budget and I can afford lots of front runners, then like we can just take all the front runners for 5 races and call it a year. Like you could take Piastri then. If you're locked out of Norris, I could take Piastri on a one racer. If McLaren comes out in practice and like they just smash it and it's looking like a McLaren 1-2, I could consider Piastri if points are what I'm prioritizing. But otherwise, he may be slightly overvalued right now. Um, I don't know what the practice situation is for McLaren this weekend. I know Pato O'Ward's going to drive one of the cars on Friday. I'm not sure which one.
It's a
So
smart
one of
PR
those
move.
drivers is going to miss some practice time.
So going a little bit further down, we now have Alonso back in talent territory, which from past experience will probably last maybe a week or a race. And the question is, you have these two other really exciting drivers in talent territory, which are Colapinto and Lawson. Both, in my opinion, underpriced. Lawson even more so at this point. I believe Lawson was the highest talent pick last weekend by I think 1 or 2 points over Colapinto. So Alonso is always tempting anytime he drops under that $18 million threshold. But Lawson and Colapinto still have an opportunity to earn abnormal amounts of improvement points, of overtake points. Putting themselves in a position where they could, for maybe another race, probably not 3, outscore Alonso in fantasy points. Would you be encouraging folks tempted to roster Alonso for talent driver purposes, to hold off on any of the, call it, 5 or 6 drivers underneath him in the midfield who are capable of having, a single event with high points?
No. So here's how I would play this situation. So Alonso's back in talent driver territory, but only by 300K right now. What I'm trying to do on my 2 top performing lineups is I'm trying to roster Alonso, but not as a talent driver selection. Alonso, 17.7 million. He could outperform Perez. He can consistently outperform Hulkenberg. So I think it's a really good price for Alonso, but I'm not banking on him for talent driver because of the bonus points that come from the race and the contract value increases. I think people should be considering right now how to figure out how to fit Lawson and or Colapinto on your lineup alongside Alonso. So how I'm structuring it with my contract lengths right now. So I'm going to be filtering between Colapinto and Lawson for talent driver selection while keeping Alonso as my driver above that. Then every driver, the rest of the 3 drivers are all the top 3 drivers in the game. So that's how I'm looking to play Alonso, at least for the short term. Call it like 2-3 races. I'll see how it goes from there.
I guess I'll go next. So I'm not interested in Alonso talent driver right now. I think if we're ranking the teams, I don't think Aston Martin is 5th fastest. I think it's between Williams and Haas for 5th fastest car at this point. So like Aston Martin, I guess, would therefore be capped at 7th fastest. Lawson on a good day can deliver you some points. I'm more excited about Colapinto as a talent driver than Lawson, though. Also, I just did a quick check in terms of fantasy points. Hulkenberg scored more points than Alonso last weekend, as did Colapinto, as did Lawson. That may not be the full list. I haven't gone through all of them, but I am not actually that excited about Alonso.
I'm not even. I was getting a little discouraged that I might not catch up to Mike in our league standings. But after hearing this, I have a little bit of hope because he's going to be rostering Alonso's, which is one guy I would never put on my team at this point.
Well, don't push him too hard. Now he might take him down. You should have just, ego's the enemy, Ryan. You should have held that to yourself.
Well, maybe I want to use Alonso talent driver and want to psych him out.
It's like a reverse. It's a
yeah.
reverse.
Now
Okay.
I got him in a pretzel.
Well done.
But I think it's 17 million. I'd rather use Hulkenberg than Alonso anyway. But for talent driver, I'm going down the list. Colapinto. I mean, maybe Albon still. Albon burned me last week, but I still think he's a pretty good ad. Lawson, like I'm using those guys for talent driver pretty much no matter what, depending on maybe what practice looks like. But I have no desire whatsoever to roster Alonso in any way. And for talent driver, like Hulkenberg's the same price, and I'd rather use him. But preferable strategy is to go down the board a little bit.
If we could talk a little grid rival drama for everyone paying attention to our league storyline, I am currently second in our league right now. The person who is in first is another grid rival employee named Michael, and he is beating me as he has self-admitted by listening to this podcast and understanding my plays and playing him slightly differently.
That's great.
I've been leading all season, and he just took it away from me at the end. I'm very close though, and I've built my gap back up, Ryan. It's going to be tough for you to get those 350 points to get to
It's
catch
Albon.
me.
It's Albon's fault. It's Albon's fault. And then, yeah, maybe I'm just going to start giving like fake information on this show to try and throw you off. But
No,
I would
we
never do
can't.
that. I would never do that to our viewers, which we love. But yeah, to Mike's point, just that's how much we appreciate you guys in the chat. Like we are actively hurting ourselves in our own league to give you guys the best information we can. So we love you guys.
All right, it is 15 after the hour, so we should get to Q&A. Last topic before we do. What do you do if you are on or off the stroller coaster? Stroller coaster is at, for any of you that have ridden on a roller coaster, he is now at the part at the bottom of the first dip where, you know, there's the high G forces pressing downward. He has to continue to drop. He has to do very poorly. We're talking bottom 5 positions to continue to go down. He's had 6 races in a row of value drops, all between, you know, 300K was the smallest. There was 2 in there that were the full 2 million. Is he underpriced at this point? William says
The roller coaster has broken down, and the fire department is coming to remove people from the ride.
they are out of compliance.
Yeah, the Aston Martin, like I was implying before, is not very good right now, in my opinion. If we look at the price point for Stroll, like, tell me why you would take Stroll over Liam Lawson right now.
There's
Tell me
one
why
reason.
you would take Lance Stroll even over Yuki right now.
I'm excited to hear this from Ryan.
There is one reason to put Stroll on your team right now. And that's because, as we've talked about, the roller coaster is at probably the bottom. And the only reason to use him is if you need points badly. He's probably a pretty low league adoption. I mean, everyone's going to be running like, would I rather have Lawson would I rather have Lawson than Stroll? 100%. But if I'm trying to make up ground, like Stroll's the Hail Mary, maybe he pulls something out, and I don't know. We've seen it before.
I think more than anything, you're hoping that Lawson has a problem at that point.
Yes.
Last weekend, Lawson outscored Stroll by 47 points.
Yes.
What
I'm saying, I know it's doubtful, and Lawson is the guy you want over Stroll, but I'm saying the only reason to use Stroll is if you have to catch somebody, you're running out of races. Maybe he does it for. I highly doubt it, but that would be the one reason to use him. Like no one else is going to have him, and maybe there's something there.
I mean, I'd consider Yuki Tsunoda before I'd consider Stroll, but that might just be me.
I would too.
Or if Alvin shows up in practice, Ocon's down there.
All right, we promised more Q&A time today, so let's get into it all the way back at the top. Anthony Costaldo, second place with $119 million cap. He needs one driver with 26.6 remaining. He's got Norris, Verstappen, Colapinto, Lawson, and Racing Bulls. Oh, dang it. He's locked out of signs. And he says, thoughts on who to sign or cancel and signing others. Let's see let's start with cancel. Let's see if there's any moves you can make.
I like all 4 of those drivers.
Yeah, that's a great. So the question is Racing Bulls.
Yeah, I'm thinking of canceling Racing Bulls in favor of Williams to get a little bit more money because you're at 26.6.
then you can get Piastri probably.
Then you might be able to get Piastri if we do the drop fee math. That's how I would play that. Swap Racing Bulls for Williams and then pick up Piastri.
Yeah, the drop fee wouldn't be that much. Like, the drop fee would be less than $1 million. So you'd have that extra $1 million that you need for Piastri, I believe. So you could go that route. The other possibility would be probably Hamilton for one race, and then pivot back to like a Sainz or whomever.
I like that. I actually like that play. Drop fee. Both of those I think are good options because drop fee on Racing Bulls is not going to be too punitive. They're at 13.
As a car, I like the Williams better anyway than Racing Bulls actually.
Yeah, and they had a rough week, probably out of character. So I think they're down 1.3. I think if you sign Williams, I mean you're dropping Racing Bull at a I don't want to say peak, but probably a peak for you since they went up 1.7.
You're probably selling high. Like I would go that far. I think you're probably selling high on Racing Bulls.
And the Hamilton thing I like too because I think we talk a lot about one race contracts and most of us don't use them often, but I think the circumstances in which I would use them is probably something like this where like kind of a blue chip top 8-6 driver had a DNF and dropped and if Lewis has a kind of just an average race, he's probably likely to at least go up $500,000, $1 million and capture some pretty good points. I think the thing I'd be looking up is both are decent value plays. I think I'd be really thinking about which of those structures is going to yield the most amount of points because I think both of them, again, potential DNFs aside, I think both of them are decent value plays. I'd be considering which one can yield you the most points. Also taking into consideration, we have sprint races coming up, right? The Hamilton play doesn't really come into, or the Hamilton one race contract doesn't come into play with that model, but those are the things I would be considering. Angel, is it worth the risk to include Mercedes drivers and team in this week's team?
I think we.
What are your other options? Is the question.
Yeah,
we already hit on it.
Yeah, we did already hit on it. If you have any specific questions about your lineup, just kind of follow up in the chat below. Looking for some roster advice this week. Grayson Holter, I've got locked Leclerc, Sainz, Williams on team. Norris, Hulkenberg, Sonoda, 68.2 available. Norris, Hulkenberg, Sonoda.
Drop Sonoda in favor of Lawson because he's only $500K more expensive. You'll have more contract value upside and more points. So I'd be looking at that. That's going to give you close to 72 million. And then now we could build a roster. Now I'll hand it off to the other guys. Where are you going with 72 million if you agree with?
I think you're finding a way to get max
72 with 2 driver spots. That's 72 includes the drop fee and re-signing of Lawson.
No, actually, it'd be 62. It's like a little under 62 to re-sign Lawson. So you have 62 for 2 drivers
and a constructor.
Yeah, and then
he needs a constructor, right?
A constructor as well.
Yeah, he doesn't have a constructor. So 62.
Okay.
Sainz is locked. Everyone's locked out of Sainz.
So
Hamilton.
We have no Ferrari drivers available. We have Norris already. So if we want a blue chip, then Max is an option. Now, Max is still in a title fight. They're still pushing there. And his teammate stinks. So some teammate points to be had. So I think Max is a viable choice. And then we got a lot of good choices and the lower priced here. Like Colapinto. Like we say these names a lot. Colapinto and Lawson seems to be the best picks these days. If you want to gamble on Kevin Magnussen, like there's a possibility there. I'm not actually doing the math on how much money I've just spent.
Well, so let's say you go with Verstappen. You got 35 left. Then what's Colapinto at right now?
He's at 11.9.
Okay, so call it minus 12. You get used to that. So you have 23 left for a constructor. I think this is,
which then you could pick up Mercedes for a short contract.
Yeah, we're not doing the exact math. He might be able to get Red Bull because Red Bull's 23.5. So I didn't. Yeah, I was rounding up.
you can definitely get Red Bull if you don't do the Sonoda drop.
Yeah.
So that's potential too. Do you value having, what was it, Colapinto over Sonoda or Lawson over Sonoda, or do you value getting Red Bull over Mercedes?
Yeah, that's the thing. And you
The
want to
thing is,
think
Perez
about,
is part of the Red Bull team, so that
Yeah,
might
I
not
think
be
it's
the move.
fairly even money between Red Bull and Mercedes as far as constructor points for that reason. Like at least both Mercedes drivers are consistent,
right.
whereas you don't necessarily get that with Red Bull. And if Max has a problem, you're just toast.
Yeah, and again, there's 2 sprint races in the next 4 events. So, um, potential argument for more value allocated to a top tier driver than a top tier team. So the
Yeah.
part of me, the part of that
And
strategy that I would think about is, do you sign Mercedes or Red Bull, or sign, you're locked out of Williams, so really it's probably Racing Bulls. That's the option. Then that saves you 13,
yeah.
about 10
With
million.
these
So
and with these sprints, I would consider some one racers on the contracts. If we're going with expensive constructor,
yeah,
I would suggest positioning yourself to bias towards drivers for Brazil, which is next week where we have a sprint again.
I agree.
Uh, just a reminder of the remaining F1 schedule. We got Mexico this week, Brazil next week, which is a sprint. Then you have Vegas, which is a street course, and then Qatar, which is a sprint, and then Abu Dhabi to wrap it up.
Hmm.
So 2 sprints in the next 4 races.
Yeah. Let's see. Moving on, Brady says, I have a completely empty team. I'm in second place in the league. Sign everybody for 5 races or try to go short term. I think we probably need some more information. We don't know your team value and how much money you have, but generally speaking, I don't think this
And who are we
group is.
signing?
Yeah, well, I don't think this group is usually the sign everybody for 5 races proponents. I think like you just lock
There
yourself
are some
into.
guys who'll sign for 5 races.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
And
I'll commit to Norris for 5 races right now.
Yep.
Max, Leclerc, I'll commit to all those guys for 5 races right now. Beyond that, it gets interesting.
I would commit to Lawson for 5 races. I think that he's, or at least 4, because you have 4 for the sprint. Anyways, give us some more information on your team and we can try and maybe answer it more. Let's see. BJL, I have Sainz and Colapinto for 3 races. Red Bull as a constructor for 1 race. 71 million to cover 3 drivers. Piastri, Russell, and Hulk are locked.
And he has signed.
So
So
Sainz
sorry.
and Colapinto and Arbol. And
All right.
is RB Racing Bulls or Red Bull? You
Should
gotta
be-
clarify.
Should be
Probably Racing Bulls usually.
Okay.
Um,
Well, it sounds like this person has a decent chunk of money, so I would actually probably keep Racing Bulls for now because you probably can get 3 great drivers for 71.4. I mean, if you just look at like taking Leclerc, you're at 41.6. Then take Norris, you're at 12.5. So you
and
could
then
do
Lawson.
Yeah, you could do Leclerc, Norris, Lawson. Like,
I like that.
yeah,
Or
He's already got
Norris and
Colapinto and
Max.
Sainz. That would be a killer lineup.
yeah. You could do Max as well.
Yep.
So yeah, you're in a really good position. I wouldn't, whether that's Racing Bulls or Red Bull, I don't think I would make a change on that right now because it's not
Yeah.
going to get you anyone better than Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, Lawson, unless then you would, if it is Racing Bulls, you'd have some money to come up from Lawson to maximize points. But I think you're looking at like a Hulkenberg at that point or an Alonso to have a similar amount of points being generated.
Given that you have signs, I would consider going Norris Max simply to avoid putting a lot of eggs in the Ferrari basket,
That's a good point.
just in case they take a step back.
Let's see. Cameron Beetle. I have Leclerc for 4, Norris for 2, Verstappen for 4, Colapinto for 3. Sainz is locked and Sauber is locked. Who should I pick up or for how long? So he's got one driver spot, 1 constructor spot. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, but I mean, now that you have Sauber locked, I mean, I don't know what to do.
Give up.
Yeah.
I mean, going back, like, I don't think Bottas is going to break that speed record anytime soon in this car. What are we doing?
Oh, hold on here. I lost me.
Yeah, we don't have a team value, so it's gonna be
Has
hard to give.
34.5. This is Cameron. He has 34.5.
Oh, 34.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Where does it say? Did you say below? Oh, there
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, he says
Yeah.
below.
Okay, so he just needs
so-
one driver and a constructor.
Yeah. So your constructor's probably Williams at 11.5. So that puts
Hamilton.
you at 23 flat. And then you could squeeze Hamilton in there.
It's Hamilton.
That's the exact situation I was referring to earlier in the call about, like, if your budget allows for Hamilton, it's a good pickup, because it doesn't make any sense to choose, in my opinion, right now, Perez or Alonso over Hamilton. So I completely agree. Williams and Hamilton.
I almost think like that weird middle group with the Perez, Alonso, Hulkenberg are almost like, why would you ever at this point? You either want to spend the extra money and get the better drivers, or you can go bargain bin shopping for guys that have shown that they're going to score.
Andrew says Colapinto better than Perez. I agree.
Oh, for sure.
I don't
Ollie,
know that Colapinto's the second coming of Fangio, but I mean, he's definitely shown that he deserves a seat.
the second coming of Fangio. That is a hot take. That's a hot take. Is that something some people are saying?
No, but yeah,
That's just a William hot
there's
take.
excitement about him, though.
That's like we can make a T-shirt out of that.
You
I'm
heard it
just
here
saying,
first.
Like, aren't they both from Argentina? Wasn't Fangio from Argentina? So
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I went for the Fangio reference.
I love it. It's not many people know the Fangio reference these days, I don't think. All right, Ollie
champion from the 50s.
150% of every race he entered, or something like that, some crazy high number. All right, Ollie Aish. Hi guys, longtime listener, first time poster. Thank you for your service. Think you guys are doing an awesome job. Oh, this is not a question. This is a compliment. Oh wait, no, there's a question that follows.
That's a
okay,
question.
I have 46.2 million to spend of 113 with Norris, Max, and Sonoda. I'm thinking Hamilton, Lawson, and Williams. I don't hate that.
Don't hate that.
I mean,
but
she's
I wish
you got a stacked team at the top, Norris and Max. Sonoda, I'd probably. Would there be any reason to drop Sonoda in this scenario? Because
If you have leftover for Colapinto, I guess.
46.
Yeah.
What do the numbers look like? That's
Yeah,
what I was thinking.
46.2 minus Hamilton at 22.8. Mike.
23.4.
Yep. Minus Williams at 11.3. What does that give us left?
12.1.
Oof. That's a lot to have in the bank with this lineup. I would cut. So 12.1, you cut Sonoda.
Lawson, did he count Lawson there?
Oh, we didn't count Lawson. Okay. So minus
Probably right
10.5.
Okay, so then you got like 1 million or something, right?
Yeah.
I think you're good.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I don't
Sonoda's
love
at 10.
having Lawson and Sonoda together, but
Yeah, I mean,
it
you're
seems like
really
that's
your only
sort of where
option
you
if you
went
drop. Really, the only option you drop Sonoda is pick up Stroll.
yeah, if you
You wanna
had
get
money to
wild.
go to Colapinto, I'd be all over it, but I don't think you actually have the money to do that, unfortunately. If our math is right.
Jack Westbrook, I have 46.3. I have Norris for 2 more, Perez 2 more, Colapinto 2 more, Norris, Perez, Colapinto. Sainz, Sonoda, and Williams are on lock. Lots of people locked out of Sainz this week, including yours truly. I'm thinking about Alonso for talent driver. I think that you may have changed your mind already.
Yeah, I also would question keeping Perez on roster.
Yeah, I think the tough part about Perez is at 19 million, he's going to be close to 600,000 to drop, but
Like,
we don't know.
Like you're
It
going to
could be
make a
worth-
ton if he ever actually shows up and produces a result. But I
Yeah.
just don't see that happening at this point. I think we would have seen it by now.
No, I agree.
Home race. He would show up for his home
He's
race.
close.
Okay, so he's locked out of Sainz. Thinking about Alonso. All right, he's got 46 million. Lawson for 3, I like. I would probably go 4. I can't tell you why, it's just a gut instinct. And Haas for 3. Haas is currently 16.3. I don't know. I feel like I'd rather personally put the money into Williams or Racing Bull because there's just upside there with both of their drivers. Each team has a very underpriced driver at the moment. And K-Mag just makes me nervous, I think. I don't know. So my opinion is I'd grab one of those two, which is going to save you. I mean, let's say you go all the way down to Williams. That's going to save you, what is that? Almost 4 million between, or sorry, no, more than that. Almost 5 million between Haas and Williams, which then you can say, I mean, if you're looking at Alonso, I think then that means you could also pick up probably somebody more like Sainz is locked, right? So,
well, Jack has
Hamilton.
Williams on lockout.
Oh, it's right. He's got Williams on lockout. God damn it. RB
So
then?
I would just, like at that point, I would consider Sauber and then just aim higher with a driver. Because like, there's really nobody like at that price point. There's nobody I really like. So I would consider just saving my money and upgrading my driver. Like if I go Sauber instead of Haas, that's a $10 million difference. And now instead of Alonso, I can afford somebody who might actually get on the podium, like a Max or a Piastri.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just trying to do the math here.
Because like Haas's ceiling is like both cars barely in the points.
Right. Yeah, I definitely don't love the Haas move.
Which is actually similar to Williams, which is why I would rather have Williams than Haas. You can't have Williams. Like Williams is going to hover around the points. Haas is going to hover around the points. One of those is a lot cheaper than the other. But we can't have that one, so let's consider just forgetting constructor, which
if he
might be a bold move.
Yeah, if he picks up Lawson and RB, he's got 22.3 million left, which can get you into Hamilton for a short period of time. Okay, we got to move on. Shout out to the GridRival team. Thank you, Jake Vossen. Did you already answer one of Jake's questions? No.
That was Jack.
Let's see. Jack Dawson, sorry. Jake. Okay. 134 total budget. Good for you. Leclerc, Norris, Albon with 2 races remaining each. Sainz, Magnussen, Ferrari locked. 63.95. Remaining. I'm thinking Verstappen 5 races, Hamilton and Williams 2. So that gives us 63.95 minus you got Verstappen. 27.8 minus what was he said Williams and Hamilton?
Hamilton.
Okay, so what's Williams at? 10. Williams is at 11.5.
Also, if he's currently in first place by 600 points, so this is purely a climb up the global leaderboards.
I would just here. I don't think we have anything to add here. I think it's a good move.
I think our main goal at this point is to avoid trouble with that kind of a point lead.
Yeah.
So so like those picks I think are fine as far as points. If you want to swap Albon for one of these other talent drivers we've been hyping, that's definitely an idea. That said, for Vegas in particular, I may not want Colapinto or Lawson so much just because rookie on a street course can be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the one caveat, like if we're trying to avoid problems. But yeah, like that lineup should keep you out of trouble, I think.
I agree. And it leaves him with 1.85 million in the bank, which is, I mean, he's utilized the budget. So I don't think I have a lot to add there.
You can also consider Hamilton for one race, as I think at whatever value he's going to gain, it's probably going to be that one race, and then pivot back to somebody like Sainz for Brazil onwards once you've got sprints again.
Okay. Liam Hanlon, looking forward to the 25 season. How will Hamilton and Sainz be valued at the beginning of the season? Way too early to tell. We look at practice results, or preseason testing and off-season gossip and all sorts of stuff to reset our driver salaries. So we won't have that answer probably till a couple weeks ahead of the first race of the season. Let's see. Dakota Lee, 54, for one driver and a constructor. Mercedes and Sainz are locked out. Current drivers Colapinto, Russell, Alonso, and Albon. 300-point lead in my league. So we got 54.5 locked out of Mercedes, Sainz.
Mercedes. I think we want to consider a makeover for this lineup anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So Cole Pinto,
he's
no
300
offense.
points in the lead. Like,
Yeah, like you're in the lead. So you're doing something right if you're in the lead. If you're in the lead, I'm not in the lead. You're in the lead. So that's something worth noting. That said, do we want Cole Pinto and Albon together on the roster? I'm not sure. Do I think Russell is overvalued right now and I could sell high on him? Probably. So, like that aside, all that aside, 54.5 for a driver and a constructor. I mean, you could afford Norris easily. So probably do that. And then if we're committed to spending the rest on a constructor, then I said go Norris. Like you could also take Leclerc, just to be clear. I like Norris a little bit better than Leclerc just because Leclerc's value was so high. And this is the first time we've really seen Ferrari perform at this level. So maybe they regress or maybe they continue and they continue to leapfrog Red Bull. So Norris, and then you've got like 24 million for a constructor. You could take that puts you in like Red Bull Mercedes territory. Like you could go Max and Ferrari with 54 million.
I like that.
You took
I
the
think
words
Max and
out of my
Ferrari's
mouth.
better if we're going to spend all the money in those spots. If we're not going to make other changes to our lineup, which, like I said, like you could consider that. You could consider moving from Russell, and I'd say Russell. If I'm dumping drivers on this roster, it's probably Russell and Alonso that are in my crosshairs.
I would just be looking at dumping Russell for Piastri, if the complete budget allows, because you need 1.2 million to go from Russell to Piastri. So if you could afford
the drop fee,
plus the drop fee, so if you could afford that and then go Verstappen, Ferrari, Piastri, you now have a elite lineup. And you could run, and you could kind of run that irrespective of sprints. And then the only other change I would consider making is Albon for Lawson. But you're optimizing very minimal points at that point, you know. So it's not as necessary. So
it does give you a bit more diversification in case Williams has a bad week as a team.
Yeah,
like we saw this with Mercedes just this past week. Like Mercedes as a team was terrible, and if all of your eggs were in their basket, you did not have a great week.
Are we going to move on? About 15 minutes left. Lots of questions still to go. Bexonius, I have Norris, Piastri, Max, Sainz, and Tsunoda. I need a constructor. I have 11.5 million. Also considering cutting Tsunoda for Lawson. I don't think you're going to get much pushback on that move from this crowd. I think let's take that off the table.
For Lawson, if you cut Tsunoda for Lawson, you're committing yourself to Sauber as your constructor. Given your budget, 11.5 gets you Williams, and I would do that.
I agree. Well, I think he's gonna have a problem if he's got 11.5, which is the exact price of Williams. That's going to leave him with 0, and cutting Tsunoda.
Yeah, that's why I said you're committing to Sauber if you do that.
Yeah. Oh, got it.
But otherwise, you're committing to Tsunoda as your talent driver.
Yes, and
that's a tough one.
You may not want to do that. I'd rather have Lawson or Colapinto talent driver, and have Sauber as my constructor.
Yeah, and I'd be thinking about when some of the other contracts drop off and trying to maybe time that with an opportunity to bring in a team better than Sauber if it makes sense. But kind of depends on
Piastri and Tsunoda both rolling off after this race, which would be an argument against cutting Tsunoda, just because like he's about to roll off anyway. Like unless we're worried about missing out on some more Lawson upside, which is a thing you could worry about.
Alex Scott, currently $132 million budget. So I've been using Ryan's strategy of signing 5 race contracts and releasing people when necessarily. Oh, this is not a question.
No,
He's
it
just
is.
complimenting you. Oh, as my drivers.
It's getting there.
Okay. Sorry. Currently, I have Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Russell, and Colapinto as my drivers, and Williams as my constructor. Any changes I should make before Mexico? $132 million budget. Verstappen, Norris.
No.
That is,
So
yeah,
I want
that's
your
another.
budget.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I would tell you is just general advice is we have more practice sessions for Mexico than we did for COTA. So tune into the practice sessions just to see if there's any drop you should be making. And that would, in my mind, that would just be around Russell in like a worst case scenario. But you have enough budget to have that drop and pick up someone else who might be outperforming, because that could be like a swap Russell for Sainz if Sainz is outperforming Russell in practice in a discernible way. But that's, again, you're optimizing for very small points at that point. So you're doing good.
Michael, I don't think this guy needs your advice. He's been using my strategy, and it looks like his lineup is very good. So I think he's got it.
Well, I'm just wait, are you in the $130+ million budget club?
Yeah.
Oh,
Are
you
you?
are.
Okay. Are you in
Unless
the
I lost it.
Are you in the 140
Ryan sounded
plus?
concerned there for a sec. Maybe
I was like,
somebody
wait.
doesn't.
Are you in the
134?
134?
I have more budget than you do.
I have 144.8. GridRival.
In what
GridRival's
league?
Yeah, what league are you talking about, man?
I'm ranked 9th in the GridRival official league. I'm going for the lead.
Oh, that's not the one we're competing in.
Yeah.
But I that's my main.
We're talking about our staff league.
The company league.
I have
Get over
100.
More
over
worried
yourself,
about the actual
dude.
league than the company league.
Yeah, I have 175 in the other league I haven't told you guys about. It's like you should see my team in there.
Yeah, I have 180 in that one. All right. Owen Bodycomb. Is it worth doing Lawson and Colapinto for 5 races from now? Could they catch Alonso and Hulkenberg? I think no, Alonso probably not. I don't know. It's actually it's hard to say. They've been having incredible performances. Could they catch Hulkenberg? I think is the first question.
In terms of salary, I don't think they get there just because there's not enough time left. But I think that they're much better guys to have on your in points. They're going to score probably score more points. I think they're going to close the gap, and that's really what we're talking about here. Not necessarily if they catch them or not.
Yep.
Yeah, they're a much more efficient use of budget than Alonso and Hulkenberg.
Let's see.
Michael thinks Yuki hits Lawson on purpose. Who knows? I don't think so. Let's see.
Romeo, I have Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, Lawson, and McLaren. I have a 14.5 to spend. I was thinking of just picking Magnussen, Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, Lawson. That's a great lineup. And McLaren, very good. He must have I'm guessing team value on this one is probably in the 130s as well.
I trust Colapinto a bit more than I do Magnussen.
Yeah, and there's more upside there. Magnussen has no upside. Like he's not gonna. Well, he's at 12. He's ranked 11th, so he's probably not gonna go any higher than 11th. I guess maybe he could go above 12.3, but he's not gonna pass Hulkenberg. And I think it's very likely that Colapinto will pass Magnussen. So I agree with you there, William. Okay, I have Norris, Hamilton, Magnussen, and Colapinto with Ferrari as my constructor. I need one more driver and currently have 25.6, and I'm locked out of Sainz.
Norris, Hamilton, locked out of Sainz right now.
Everyone is. I have Norris, Hamilton, Magnussen. Well, Sainz was very underpriced, I think, coming to this race. I think a lot of people picked him up.
Well, I think people might have also taken my advice about having the top drivers out for a non-sprint weekend.
Okay, on this guy's lineup, would you at all drop Magnussen? Norris, Hamilton, Magnussen, Colapinto, and Ferrari 25.6 to sign. So that could get you that can get you Hamilton, which is not bad. I think you're looking at Hamilton for a 1 or 2 race.
If you drop Hamilton already,
I'd be comfortable running Magnussen here.
Yeah, but if you drop Magnussen, you could get Lawson, and that would open up your ability to probably pick up maybe Russell or Pete. Does he already have Piastri? Yeah, he could pick up Piastri maybe. Russell or Piastri. That's my move.
Yeah.
Is a Ferrari a
must-add
must-add constructor?
If you want to spend a bunch on a constructor, yes. Like
Yeah.
of the higher price constructors, Ferrari would be where I'd be looking. If you've decided you'd rather spend on driver than constructor, which is definitely a choice you can make.
Yeah, maybe just here, maybe one race.
Kind
and then
of
you have a
depends
driver
on where
roll
you're
off.
at. Yeah, I think this is one of those kind of depends on where you're at in the season. You know, are you still trying to get value? If you're like a lot of these folks that are at the top of their league, definitely I'd probably be going with something more stable play. But you do have to remember with 2 sprint races out of the next 4, drivers have a top tier driver is going to have the ability to earn more points than a top tier constructor. So I think just kind of depends on where you're at.
Yeah, it says a lot that most of these viewers, names that I recognize every week, seem to all have lots of budget and high spots in their league. So hopefully that's a good reflection on us.
Yeah.
All
And
right,
if you appreciate it, hit that like button. Tell the algorithm that you like our advice on this wonderful game of ours.
That's right. Joe's Datsun Garage. I've been in that garage. Full disclosure, this person is in my league, so don't give too good of advice. Lost Hamilton this week. Perfect timing. That was sarcasm, I believe. Added Lawson and am dumping Aston early. Grab Ferrari or McLaren for the rest of the season with the savings.
I think you go Joe, Botas, and Sauber.
Yes, I'm very bullish on Sauber and Alpine.
Okay, what's the real advice here? Lost Hamilton.
I'm not opposed to setting and forgetting Ferrari, like if we think they're back. McLaren's a bit pricey. That money might be better deployed on drivers, depending on the rest of your roster situation.
With 2 sprints coming, I'm probably not locking in a high price constructor the rest of the year. If I were to do it, I'd do it maybe this week for a race and then maybe switch things up for Brazil.
I'll tell you, this person's priority should still be on value. I can say that.
Okay, so they don't have a ton of budget necessarily.
No.
I would say stay away from high price constructor then for the rest of the year, just because of where we're at in the schedule.
Or at least wait until Vegas. So if you wait until Vegas, then there's 3 races left and one of them's a sprint. And
yeah, I'd want to.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, as Meatloaf said.
Yeah, I'd want to get through the sprints, which like we just told the last viewers, an opportunity to or a time to consider high price drivers over high price constructors. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I lost my spot. Oh no. Angel. Leclerc, Max, Sonoda, Colapinto, Norris, and Ferrari locked. 71 million available. 71 million with Leclerc, Max, and Sonoda. That's a good budget, isn't it?
Yeah.
71.2. So let's see. He's saying Sainz and Lawson. I like that. No pushback there. But wondering team. So if he gets Sainz, that's going to be
24-4, which would be
Lawson's 10.5.
Yeah. 10-5.
So that's going to give him 36.3 left for a constructor.
And then you have your pick of constructor.
Yeah, you can pick anybody. Ferrari's locked. Or no, sorry, that's next viewer.
And then you have a bunch of money in the bank as well. We could consider upgrading a driver.
Yes, I mean Sonoda would be the obvious one because he's cheap to drop. So if you drop Sonoda at 10, that's going to be he's going to get, what is that, 10? He's going to get 9.4 back, right?
I think so.
That's right. Yeah. Or let's see here.
3%. 3% of 10 would be 300,000. The drop fee would be 300,000. So
he's going to get 9.7 back, which would give him that would be 46 total to sign a driver to constructor. So he could drop Sonoda. Does he have Lawson? Who's he have? No, he doesn't have Lawson. He had Colapinto's locked, so he could get Lawson.
Yeah, he was going to take Lawson. Like you could take like Max and Williams with that kind of money.
Yeah. I like that better than high price constructor. We've hit on that. So that's our advice. We got 6 minutes to go. Let's see.
Was Haas's performance a surprise in Austin? Not in my opinion, no. Hulkenberg,
Like they performed like up to their ceiling. Like well, Haas is sort of up and down. This was one of the up weeks. Like there was nothing like totally spectacular, but
I would say,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, not surprising for Hulkenberg. I think like the more
Yeah.
roller coastery driver has been Magnussen. So I think that if anything, that would be into the surprise territory would be him. But
mhm.
Has Cole Pinto been the best value pick in the history of the game?
No.
Probably. Like
No.
he outperformed where we thought that he'd be consistently finishing every week, so he's gotten a lot of improvement points.
Mike
And
says
so
hard
yeah.
no.
I mean, he's gone up 2 million, I think, every single week.
Mike,
Yeah, that's the thing. That's
who
that's
are
where
we
that's
missing,
coming
Mike?
from.
Alonso in 23 at the start of the season.
Right when Aston was like podiuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that
Yeah,
23?
maybe there.
Mm-hmm.
People debating how to pronounce Cutter. As far as I know, it is pronounced Cutter. That's what I've been taught previously. So that's why I'm saying it that way.
We always get cyberbullied on pronunciations. You guys got to give us a break.
This is just live chat. Like this is just one of the hazards of streaming.
Mm-hmm.
We love you guys.
Does it make sense to drop Yuki for Lawson?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
And
yeah,
in
I
pretty
do.
much every scenario.
The Edmund Fitzgerald, nice name.
Per Google, why is Qatar called Qatar? The way the name is pronounced, this is a post. I didn't Google this. Is
How it's
Arabic
pronounced in
is
Arabic.
closer to Qatar than to Qatar.
Let's not go down the rabbit hole.
We just have one fun fact per show, so there's your fun fact.
Okay.
No, dude, our fun fact was that Valtteri Bottas hit the max speed ever at Mexico GP. We already used our fun fact.
One non F1 centric fun fact, just to
Okay.
broaden the horizons of our audience.
Would we dump Hamilton for Sainz? Because why not? If you tell me you want to dump Hamilton for Sainz, if that fits with your budget, like I think Sainz is a better choice than Hamilton. Sainz's podium, his ceiling is the podium. His podium is the ceiling too. I don't know that Hamilton's going to be on the podium the rest of the year.
The ceiling is the roof.
Let's see. Mike wonders where all of our global ranks are, and I'm assuming he's asking about our real teams, not our fake teams.
My fake team is number 1.
My fake team is my team is not. Well, I'm 9,706. It's gotten worse every year, which is less a testament to my skills and more a testament to how much the app has grown and how many users we have. I have 17,097 points.
2736 right now. That's where I'm ranked. My best
7
lineup.
749. So crack the top 750.
That's
All right,
that's
well,
impressive.
198 in our league and 175 in the other league. That does exist.
Global leaderboard.
Global leaderboard.
Yeah, like my best lineup is in that secret league. So it's like
that's the
37,
third
36.
league. I don't know where I'm at in the
Not-
third league.
Global leader
I've been
currently
wrong
has
place, wrong time
100.
a lot this year.
Global leader currently has 159.3 million in team value and 19,200 points. That is absolutely insanity.
Yeah, and he recently jumped up as well. Ram Herrera was leading the global leaderboard for a long time, and then the new guy, I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce that, has jumped up. But Ram is a multi-year player, so he's got a lot of experience.
We have time, I think, for one more question. Let's
wondering 28.3 million for a star driver and a constructor. Hulk and Williams locked. Go Alonso, Alpine, or Colapinto / Alonso / Albon and Haas. I probably go the second option of those are my choices. I like Colapinto's upside a lot more than Alonso's these days. Like especially if we're talking talent driver.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably go Colapinto if it's between him and Lawson and Albon. Yeah, look at practice times though. Like if one car seems faster than the other, like either Colapinto or Lawson. And maybe
For
Haas
sure.
is somehow terrible and you go different with the constructor as well. But like I like where your head's at.
Yep, I don't have anything to add. And we are out of time. So more questions than time this week, and hope next week we can get to everybody.
We've
We
got
thank you.
Discord.
What was that? We got Discord. Discord's a great spot. I know some of the names in this chat are already on there, so you got great resources. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining. We appreciate your continued use of the product. Make sure to like and invite, subscribe to the channel, invite your friends to play. It's the best way you could help us out and continue to grow the product. Again, thanks for joining. We look forward to talking to you for the next race.
See ya.
All right, we're done. Stop recording.